Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, it was one of those days, wasn't it? Everything seemed to be absolutely fine, and then that happened. And it was really weird and out of step with everything that had come before it. But that's Tottenham Hotspur. It really is. I should of course say Happy Easter to everyone. Although it probably doesn't feel the happiest of Easters after what happened at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. I was absolutely shattered. I actually got a few days away, went to Sorrento and Capri, got back really late at night, almost 1 in the morning at Stansted Airport, and then had to get up for that early kick-off, which I actually thought, it's not a bad way to get back to work. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest way to go back to work and watch that. Actually, I should probably warn you that I did a few little videos and stuff out in Sorrento and Capri and Pompeii, which I'm going to use my very, very basic editing ability to kind of stick together in a little video just in case anyone ever is thinking about going out to Sorrento, Capri and Pompeii. I'm going to pop that out. I thought I'd better warn you because you'll probably get a notification at some point this week if I can sort it all out, and it will have some video about Sorrento. So people that have absolutely zero interest in that are going to see that notification and go, what the heck, kind of thing. It's just going to be me and I think I'm going to try and do that once in a while, just purely of any interest to people who might be going there. Just a little talking about various places I went to, things I'd recommend and stuff like that. It has no Tottenham Hotspur relevance whatsoever. So I should warn you, if you think you're going to watch it, and there'll be me talking about, Tanguy Ndombele, Oliver Skip, Antonio Conte, whatever. I'm not. It's just me essentially walking around places in, Italy in this one. So, just don't want to. I don't want to have a lot of comments underneath going, what's this got to do about Conte? What's this got to do about North London Derby? It's not that. Actually, I should little shout out as well, really. While I was out there, I was going to have a nice meal one evening. And I came across a very enthusiastic Tottenham fan called John McCabe, who's also a Motherwell fan because he lives in Motherwell. Very, very nice guy. He was out there on his what had been a bit of a delayed honeymoon with his wife, who was also very nice indeed. And a couple of family members. I think it was one family member and their boyfriend. And yeah, very, very nice to meet you, John. It was lovely. And yeah, what else before we launch into that Tottenham performance? No indie today. I've had a lot of people commenting about show us the dog. It's like almost like a, like I'm going to get some kind of ransom note for him at some point. Although, if you were eagle-eyed enough last week, you'll have noticed that he did pop up. Some people pointed it out in the comments, and I didn't even realise it. But when he was trying to jump off the sofa, his ear came up about here very briefly, which also proves that I'm not someone from One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest who, sees cockapoos who aren't really there. He does exist. And if you look back, you just see his ear pop up just to show that he does exist. But he's down with the girls today, enjoying the sunshine out there. I'm trying to skip away from him. I'm trying to veer away from the absolute horror show that was yesterday, a performance with not even a single shot on target. I think maybe the first time since the Nuno days. You know what? Let's start with getting the excuses out of the way, because I've seen on social media since the game various reasons being put forward for why things didn't happen or that. I don't really agree with. There's 3 main reasons. One I partially agree with. The other 2 I don't subscribe to whatsoever. First one that I noticed was some people talking about the song "Can't Smile Without You," which, yes, I think even the people that are speaking about it know that it's not the reason for yesterday's defeat. But just on that, it's a cool song. I like when you hear the fans sing it after games, especially away games, is very cool. When you hear them either singing it in the stadiums or on their way back on the train and stuff, it's a very cool song in that respect. I 100% agree with those who say it's no way near a warm-up, like a hype-up song before a match. Absolutely agree with that. It can be one of those that's like a real hairs on your arm tingling song, I think, when heard after a game or in a game maybe at some points, if it's going well for Spurs or whatever, as a let's get everyone bumping kind of music. No, it's not that. And I think it was someone saying it was some kind of vote, which is why it's being played before matches at the moment. But I should point out, Spurs did not lose to Brighton yesterday because of, was it Barry Manilow's song, Can't Smile Without You? They did not lose because of that in any way, shape or form. They have actually obviously won matches when it's been played before. I would agree that it doesn't send them out hyped up. Personally, as a bit of a Star Wars nerd, I did like the Duel of Fate. John Williams' music from Phantom Menace being played before the game. I did feel that kind of just got the atmosphere really pushing up and up and up. But having said that, I still think yesterday the crowd were up for it. The crowd was buzzing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I actually thought it was going to be a bigger attendance. It was 58,000 something in the end. It felt like a near sellout. I couldn't see many empty seats unless there was some in like the corporate boxes that weren't being filled. But to me, it looked, packed, and the noise reflected that. Even after Can't Smile Without You, there was a big roar before the game. Hugo Lloris said in an interview afterwards, which we'll talk about in a bit, on the Spurs social media channels, he said, we could hear the crowd during the warm-ups. We were, we're ready to go kind of thing, but just didn't happen on the pitch whatsoever. So that's one excuse. Let's put that to one side, and it's not an excuse. It was nothing to do with the performance yesterday, in my view. Next one. Harry Kane's very public trip to Augusta to see the final day of the Masters. Way back. He flew out, I think, straight after the game on Saturday at Villa Park. Was there on Sunday to watch the final round. I think he was there on Monday as well. I think someone said that he was actually playing some golf at Augusta. This was all pre-agreed. All the players were allowed to go away for a couple of days, do whatever they wanted. It was their downtime. There was no special dispensation to say that anyone had any extra time off or anything like that. They had to be back for Tuesday training. Harry Kane was back for Tuesday training. He was there. A little bit bleary-eyed, I'm told, but he was there for Tuesday training. I think he did some stuff with Sky Sports, didn't he, as well? I must admit, I didn't watch the Masters, but I understand that he was doing some bits and pieces with them and kind of thanked them as if perhaps it was a pre-agreed trip with Sky Sports. I'm not sure. But look, I've seen some people afterwards blaming that as one of the reasons. And, oh my God, why was he allowed to go off to another continent? This is disgraceful. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. He was back on Tuesday. He hasn't gone away for a long time in America. His body won't have really adjusted to different times. And he won't. I don't see lots of people saying he'll be jet lagged and wiped out since. I don't think so. 48 hours or so in another country? I don't think you're adjusting jet lag wise, really. And then he's had let's say Monday night, Tuesday. I don't know how late he got in on Monday, whether he actually got in technically early on Tuesday, I don't know. But he would have had Tuesday night to sleep, Wednesday night to sleep, Thursday night to sleep, Friday night to sleep. He'd had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 full days of training, and then to play on Saturday. I'm sorry, but he was, yes, kind of sluggish and all that, but the whole team were. This was not a defeat because Harry Kane went to watch some golf in America for 48 hours, almost a week before the game. That's not a reason. It's not. He was just poor on the day, as were the rest of the team. I don't think you should give him the excuse. If we're going to be tough, I don't think we should give him the excuse of any jet lag or anything. I think he just had an off day with the rest of the team. I'm going to go through lots of stats and bits and pieces for all the players that I kind of felt let the side down, and I don't agree with Harry Kane popping to America for a couple of days. Lots of people, perhaps it's post-match emotions and anger, I don't know, but a lot of people, I feel, just going too strong on that. For me, I don't think it plays that big a deal. The guy wasn't over there, doing the most ridiculously strenuous things. He was going and watching golf, playing a little bit of golf, coming back on what presumably would have been a private jet. it's not the most crazy 2 days of downtime I think anyone's ever had. And we mustn't forget how Harry Kane looks after himself like anything. His diet, his body, the way he treats his body, the sleep he gets, and all that. It would have been all top level. That's what he prides himself on. So I wouldn't make too much of that. The one excuse I would give a little bit of credence to, is it was a very different week for Spurs and Antonio Conte and the players. Because obviously, as is becoming the norm, when I go away, something happens. And it was this time that Antonio Conte obviously contracted COVID. When I found out, I was right in the middle of Pompeii with no mobile reception whatsoever. I don't know what those, the Romans were thinking about, not taking into account future development of 4G and 5G technology. What is that all about? But yeah, I couldn't. I actually knew, and I tried to send a tweet out to at least say to people, this is what's happened. And it wouldn't send for about 20 minutes. And then when it did, it looked like it sent it about 10 times. It was a disaster. But, which is a really weird word to use when you're standing in the middle of Pompeii, which was actually suffered a real disaster, not a Twitter disaster. Context, Alistair, context. Or Conte. So Conte, he started feeling a bit rough after the Villa game. Took a test. That second line obviously popped up. And then what happened was, I suppose the only way to describe it is the new way that we're, the world is dealing with COVID. And that's that he, rather than obviously in the past, we had to isolate away for a long period, well, for 10 days, it used to be when I had it. He was able to, in isolation, I guess, go in and shout from afar in the training ground. The stuff. So there is a big difference there in terms of the way Conte works. Conte is very much a one-to-one physical kind of guy. He likes to get right in and muck in, put his arm around players, talk to them very much, and very much involved in training sessions as well, rather than someone just stands there and strokes her chin in the background. And he obviously had a bit of a hoarse throat as well, as in a sore voice, not literally a horse's throat. And he was... Yeah, it wasn't the same way training sessions happen at Tottenham. He had to put more trust in his staff. And obviously he's not going to be feeling particularly great either. So yes, you could perhaps argue that it was a little bit different, the whole build-up to the game in that respect and the way he was feeling. He tested negative on Friday, which meant that on Saturday he could go to the match. He deliberately, he was allowed to, but he was allowed to go with the team to the game, but he chose to travel separately just to have that one little kind of, I suppose, confined moment with them to just for his own peace of mind, maybe not passing it on. I've seen some people on Twitter, who've been doing, it's COVID, it's nothing now, we have to move on, blah, blah, blah. But I think maybe they're forgetting the fact that aside from all the other little bits and pieces involved with COVID, when you're a football manager, you don't want to give it to your players. You don't want to give it to a player who then might miss a crucial match because they're feeling a little bit rough because of it. And it would probably be the same, with anyone with any other kind of contagious problem type thing. Conte obviously knows what it's like to have an outbreak of COVID at the club, and he doesn't want to lose players for matches who are feeling rough. And potentially, I do think we're seeing with a couple of players some little lingering after effects as well from it. But yeah, so he didn't go with them on the coach. He instead made his own way there. And then obviously once he was there, he was able to go into the changing rooms. Changing rooms are big things. It's less of a streamlined kind of coach idea with contained air. And then he was obviously back out on the touchline. And, if anyone thought that having COVID and feeling a bit rubbish would have calmed Antonio Conte down, it didn't. He was bounding about that technical area, gesturing, pointing, shouting, just doing everything he normally does. And I think that was probably what makes it even more, disappointing, is that you had him, he's 52-year-old, just recovered from COVID, hasn't been feeling great. I was away, obviously, but I saw snippets of the Zoom press conference he did, where he sounded a little bit rough, and some of the journos involved said he looked a little bit peaky at times in it. But then he's out there on the Saturday shouting at the top of his voice, doing everything that Conte normally does in the touchline, which makes it all the more galling that the players didn't. As I said before, one shot on target. They were just so flat. I've seen some people saying that it was almost like they were going out to play a pre-season game. And I agree with that. I think I do. There was no intensity, no urgency to what they were doing. And Brighton, Brighton certainly nullified some of what Tottenham did. I wouldn't say it was the most incredible performance in the world from Brighton. They tactically did what they had to do. They didn't test Lloris once, from what I can remember. Maybe there was a dunk header that maybe Lloris had say, but it was quite comfortable. Obviously, they won the game, so fair play. They probably deserved to win it because they had a shot on target and scored from it, whereas Tottenham didn't even do that, have a shot on target. But yeah, I wouldn't say Brighton turned up and absolutely dominated and played Tottenham off the park. Just Tottenham was so poor. They really, really were. Too many of the Tottenham players, maybe, I don't know, because we've had all these 4-goal matches and 5-goal matches and they've been starting to get praise again from the pundits on, Match of the Day and Sky and BT and whatever. Maybe they started to believe their own hype and all this talk about Tottenham now are in charge of the top 4 race. Maybe it just, went to their heads, and maybe the fact that, they've played Brighton twice already and beaten them both times and they felt they could go into this and just do it again. But, maybe they forgot that the key to both of those wins against Brighton and all of these recent 4-0 and 5-1s and things like that, 5-0s, have been fight and intensity and actually playing the Conte way. And I think, that was just massively missing. It was complacent. It was not very good at all. Obviously Arsenal then went and messed up themselves at Southampton, which, on paper probably was going to be the tougher game because Southampton's a strange side. They'll get absolutely tonked one week and the next they'll turn up like a fantastically organised passing side. That's exactly what's going to happen with them. Obviously Arsenal doing that has still left Spurs in control of their own destiny. They're very much, it's in their hands still. But I'd say that rather than, being relieved about it, I think Conte would have just been even more frustrated because it just shows you Tottenham actually done the job they had to do, those players. They'd gone out there. It wasn't just the players either. I think Conte's subs, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I don't think that was great. They were great either. But, that's the frustration, is that had Tottenham done what they had to do, which was win a home game that should have been very winnable, they would be in such a commanding position right now. They would be so commanding in where they are. And they threw it away. They did. And this is, we'll talk about it later as well, that Conte says this is what they have to learn from. These are the experience kind of moments where you have to realise that you need to battle it. How many times have we heard that about Tottenham players? Conte said it. Mourinho used to say it. I'm sure Nuno would have said it. Poch would have said it all the time. No easy game. You have to fight for every match and not just kind of stroll around. And it's kind of really basic stuff. And it's really frustrating when you see these clearly very talented footballers just not doing what they need to do. And Man U were pretty poor as well, but they have Cristiano Ronaldo, a man who knows what to do in these big moments and knows he has the experience of how to kind of turn around tough situations and not get either too complacent or carried away with anything. And once again, as he did against Tottenham, he saved their bacon and scored another hat-trick, and they're gaining that bit of ground. Obviously, still 3 points behind Tottenham, and with the goal difference, it's almost like another point, isn't it? But still, Conte will keep telling you as well that United have got the best squad, he feels. We'll talk about I'm going to run down all the fixtures for the top 4 chasers at the end of this. If United put a run together, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Tottenham. A lot of pressure on Tottenham, especially if they're going to play like they did yesterday. Wasn't good at all. There was a little throwaway line that Conte used. He said quite a lot yesterday, but there was one little throwaway line which to me kind of struck a chord. So he said, I think that Brighton was very good to close the space, and we were not so good to close the space. In the difficulty, we have to try and find the solution with a single player. We can do it much better. So what he's essentially saying there, I believe, is that in the moments when a team is being very compact and is stopping you playing around them, then it's about individuals stepping up. It's about showing that little bit of magic. It's about doing something that bit different and unpredictable that creates things. And that is when the responsibility falls on the club's big players. And, when we're talking about the big players, I'd say you've got, with any side, you've got maybe the stars and you've got the workers, haven't you, in every team? And that they complement each other nicely. You can't have 11 stars and you can't have 11 workers. There has to be a balance. I'd probably say the stars of the Tottenham team, you'd probably say Harry Kane, Son, Christian Romero, Bentancur, and obviously Kulusevski is a rising star. It was probably the stars. Could I look at them and say did as much yesterday, those players, as they've done in previous matches? I don't think so at all. Many of them have provided assists and goals galore in recent weeks. Other ones have produced, incredible tackles, but also helped kind of start the foundations of the attacks as well. And I'm going to give you some stats now as well, which, especially, you can maybe get away with one or two of your big names being off the boil a little bit. But if all of them are at the same time, that's when you get things like happened yesterday. And it's not good enough. It wasn't good enough at all. So let's talk about Kane. Start off with Kane. And this is the issue, I think, throughout the whole side. There was no moving the ball quickly. The movement was terrible. There was an amount of times when PM or Højbjerg was running through the middle and he was looking for someone to pass to, and he just ended up kind of frustratedly putting his arms in the air because he was having to play daft passes that weren't getting through. No one was showing for the ball. It was one of those days where they were all kind of hiding it, or if they got it, they were playing it really safe. And he was getting quite frustrated. I didn't actually think Højbjerg was one of the worst. I think I maybe gave him my highest mark, which was only a 7, which my marks yesterday were pretty low for most people, and probably could have been even lower. The trouble with doing ratings sometimes is if you give one mark to someone else, then in context with another mark, it makes it really difficult. And sometimes, but I know everyone would like me to put, give him a 0, or no one gets more than a 1. It doesn't really work like that because of those different levels of what people did and what maybe some people didn't realise they did in games and things like that. But yeah, I thought Højbjerg at least was having a go, but like everyone else, the distribution from him wasn't good enough. So Kane, I think Brighton very clearly starved him of the space that he operates in. They would have looked at what he's done recently. They're dropping into those pockets of space, and then with Sonny running ahead of him and Kulusevski, and they nullified that, a lot of that. They really kind of matched up in a way with some of what Spurs were doing, and that stopped Kane. So, I mean, listen to this. He had a pass success rate of just 57.1%. And he touched the ball only 27 times in the whole game, which for Kane that's a player not being able to exert any influence on proceedings whatsoever. He lost the ball 4 times with bad touches and he was dispossessed twice. The only 2 moments really of quality that he had was ironically a long throw to Sonny, which set up the chance for him. And then also the flick on to Bergwijn in the last minute, which Bergwijn then fluffed. It was just really disappointing. We had this with Kane where there was a little run of games where when Spurs were back being unstable in their results, was that Kane was fantastic, Spurs would win. Kane was off the boil, Spurs would lose. That going on and on like that. Whereas this felt again like one of those real not at the races performances. And this is why it's nothing to do with Augusta and going there. He's done this before. In a season where he's done so many brilliant things, he's had these games where he looks just kind of almost like he's run out of ideas. And I mean, on another day, yes, he could have had 2 assists, but still the overall standard of his play was nowhere near the levels that he knows that he can reach. Probably the biggest disappointment for me was Kulusevski. And of course, you're going to have this with young players. He's only 21, so to expect him to be the incredible assist-making, goal-scoring midfielder, right winger, whatever you want to call him. He's been in recent weeks. He's not going to do that every week. That's the thing with young players. You are going to have that. But he was so unimpactful. He was so uninvolved. It was a strange one. And look, I'm not singling it out because I don't really think anyone, like I say, played particularly well. But it was just disappointing because of how good he's been. And I think other people are starting to take notice. And maybe that's an issue as well he's now got to deal with, is that other teams are starting to notice how good he is and what he can do. But, you look at it, he touched the ball less than any other player in a Spurs shirt. He had it just 18 times. That's all 18 times. That's not getting involved in the game. He had a 90% pass success rate, but that was because he only played 10 passes and pretty much all of them were safe and predictable and just, sideways passes to a player. And also, what Kulusevski's been doing, which has been fantastic, is just sometimes really driving at the defence, really just taking the ball and going for it, or even sometimes in his own half. Yesterday, not one single dribble. Didn't attempt one single dribble or fire off a shot or play a key pass. He's been in such brilliant form. And like I say, I think this is just what you're going to have to accept with a young player. Can happen. Because just wasn't involved at all. I've got some more stats written down. He lost the ball 3 times through bad touches and was dispossessed once. He came off, was it about the hour mark? And to be honest, he's maybe lucky that he wasn't kind of hooked at half time because he just barely touched the ball, as you can see. He'll learn from this. He'll come back and he'll do what he was doing beforehand again. But it was just a day when, Spurs needed him. If Kane was being quiet, then Kulusevski is probably the other one that's going to provide creative stuff, obviously, as well as Sonny. Not a great day for him. Sonny at least tried to make things happen. I think you can definitely give him that. He had a couple of shots on goal. He slung 5 crosses into the box. Interestingly, had a 100% success rate from his 11 passes. But again, a bit like Kulusevski, they weren't really cutting creative through balls or anything like that. He wasn't up to his standards that he's been in recent weeks as well. But I'd probably say, tried to made more happen than the other two. Although, Kane could argue that, like you said, he could have had 2 assists. Bentancur was very disappointing. He's been superb, obviously, in recent weeks. He's been a really important cog in the Tottenham machine. But I felt yesterday, he was flat as well. And the quick passing and moving the ball forward, 2 of the people that have to provide that are the central midfielders. And he and Højbjerg both, that was a real issue, is that there were moments where you saw him and like, release it, you've turned around and passed to someone else. And that's not like Bentancur. He's been showing that he's got that quick release ability. And his passing accuracy for him wasn't the greatest. 43 passes, just 81.4%. Again, it was the speed for him. The speed of what he was doing things just was not the same level he's been at. And then the other one of the kind of star players that I said, and of course, feel free to tell me if I've missed out on certain star players or people that you think should be in that list, or some of these star players that shouldn't be in the list should be more in the worker list. But, Christian Romero, it was interesting. He did some good things, which I think quite a few people criticised him afterwards. I saw on social media, but I'll give you some of the stats in a minute. He did some really good things, but what he didn't do was, the one thing that we see Christian Romero do, which my colleague Rob Guest is always obsessed with watching, is that Romero likes to get up the pitch. He does. He likes to get involved, and he plays these crossfield balls. One of them led to a goal last week as well. But he was quite almost reluctant to do that. And all those long diagonal balls that, done so well before, he made 10 of them and only 2 reached their target, which, isn't great at all. What I would say on the plus side, he made 1 key interception, 6 tackles, and his 6 tackles was 1 short of the total of the rest of the Spurs side combined. I think combined they had 7. So he's alone made almost as many tackles as the entire rest of the team combined. although he got himself in a little bit of a tangle for the goal. He kind of made what looked like a good tackle, and then he kind of got his legs kind of all in the wrong position and ended up kind of presenting the ball to Trossard. And then Trossard went on and made Eric Dyer look like a cruise ship, kind of slowly turning with one little feint of his body and pulling the ball, dragging the ball inside. I don't think Romero or Dyer covered themselves in glory in that moment whatsoever. But yeah, so that's what I mean when you look at those are, I'd say, the star players in the Tottenham team, and to have all of them have an off day, that's why you're going to get that kind of performance. And of course, then there's the wing backs. Wing backs are utterly, utterly crucial. If you're getting overloaded in midfield, the way to bypass that is to get your wing backs flying down the flanks. Flying down the flanks. That was I said flying down the flannels rather than channels. You've got to get the ball quickly to the wing backs. The wing backs have to get down there, and they have to turn your attacking thing into a front five almost. And that's where Spurs just uninspiring, both of them. Look, Conte is really angry with the Matty Cash challenge on Romero. Matt Doherty kind of spoke about it again after this match when asked about players being protected, because there was a few tough tackles. Mwepu probably, pretty much definitely had enough opportunities to get a second yellow card, which was why Potter hooked him at half time. Also, I forgot to say Kulusevski probably should have gone as well. That was an intent to elbow someone, and that's all you need. You don't have to connect. It has to be the intent is the way it's done. So yes, he was probably a bit of a lucky boy that VAR and the referee and the assistants all decided it wasn't. But yeah, when it came to the Doherty challenge last week, obviously Conte is absolutely, you can see seething about that, because Matt Doherty was finding his form and he was providing a key element to Conte's team, is that wide pushing on wing back who essentially is like another attacker in the box. And Emerson, he's a solid fullback. I'll say this every time. He's a solid fullback, a solid right back, but fullbacks don't always make wing backs, and he's not. He's not. There were so many opportunities yesterday when he got to a certain point and you knew he had no idea what to do with the ball. Not a clue. And as I always say, the joke in the media box is, if Emerson wins you a corner, that's the best case scenario you're pretty much going to get from him. He's still got one assist to his name, 38 appearances this season, one assist. 3 of those games for Barcelona, but 35 for Tottenham, one assist in all of that. He didn't put in a single cross into the box against Brighton and didn't make a single attempt to dribble the ball forward. There, in a nutshell, is why your right wing back didn't do anything to help the team shape. Look, defensively, I thought he was okay. I didn't think he did too much wrong, but unfortunately, when you're a wing back, your role is only half defensively. It's about so much more than that. And that's where I was really disappointed with Sergio Reguilon as well. I thought Sergio Reguilon offered as little as Emerson did. Very, very little coming from him. Reguilon had a lower passing success rate than anyone in the Spurs lineup, barring Kane. Just 61.5% of his 26 passes found their mark, and he made just one cross and that flew off target. This is the thing that I kind of find a bit bewildering with Reguilon, is I feel he's got the elements and the skill set to be a very good wing back. I don't really understand why it's not working for him. He said himself, look, hasn't played as a wing back before, so he is adapting. I just feel that with his pace, he should be doing so much more when he gets in the final third. But no, he was very poor, to be honest, yesterday. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sessegnon comes back into the team for Brentford. If Conte feels he's fit enough to start a match, you kind of felt that before his injury he was being preferred, and I think that's when we were seeing goals and assists and stuff was coming down that left-hand side. Obviously, Reguilon, when he replaced him against Everton, came on and scored, but I feel like Sessegnon seemed like the more consistent attacking threat And I feel like Conte is going to think the same way. So if, and it's an if, because obviously they've got to get him to the right place physically and also mentally in his confidence in his hamstring. If they can get him to that place for next Saturday, I wouldn't be stunned if Sessegnon starts, purely because you can't have another match where both wing backs are just nullified and doing nothing in terms of going forward. I think you have to. And that's, I mentioned the subs earlier as well. They didn't cover themselves in any glory. I wouldn't. Yeah, if I was going to criticise Conte for anything, I do feel like the way he adapted to the game was a little bit predictable. We now know that Lucas is always going to be the first sub. We know that poor old Stevie B, despite the fact that he'd been scoring goals galore, was going to always come on late in the match. And yeah, I think I said to one of my fellow, I think maybe it was John Veal or Guesty, I said he'll bring on Winks as well because he'll want to add another body to that midfield, and actually took off Bentancur for Winks in the end. Whereas for me, I don't know. Look, who am I? I'm just some bloke who sits on his couch and writes about Tottenham. I am not one of the top managers in the world like Antonio Conte was. The only thing I would say that I kind of felt the game did need Sessegnon. I felt that the wide areas were where Spurs were really struggling, and that meant they were bunching into the middle and there was no space. So personally, I would have maybe put on Sessegnon for a Reguilon, and perhaps maybe your Bergwijn or your Lucas comes on to replace Emerson and just opens up more of a threat. Because, subs came on. Oh, Lucas did the thing that, when he's not, Lucas can come on and, actually the best way to say this is John Veal from the Press Association, who obviously I'm pretty much sat next to at most games along with Guesty. He said, I'm hoping he doesn't mind me saying this, but I agree with it, so I'm throwing my weight behind it as well. Is that he said when Lucas comes on, he creates chaos for the opposition, but he also creates chaos with Tottenham's system. Tottenham's system then goes completely out of whack because Lucas just does what Lucas does. He'll pick up the ball and he'll just head down and run, and that kind of messes up with the system. And that works sometimes. Again, it's Newcastle that came on, drove through the centre, resulted in a goal for Bergwijn. But it just felt like yesterday was one of those days when you see how it doesn't work when he doesn't do things right. And, I put in my player ratings, I kind of wrote it down here. Came off the bench, ran about a bit, but offered nothing. And that's it. And I feel like that's why he's lost his place to Kulusevski, because sometimes Lucas can be all bark with no bite. And that's what he'll do. And he'll come on and he'll run around a lot and he'll lose the ball eventually. And I mean, when we talk about Kulusevski and Lucas, it is a bit like night and day, because Kulusevski already has almost half of the 15 assists Lucas has recorded during more than 4 years in the Premier League. 15 assists in 4 years in the Premier League. So to put that into context, Kulusevski has got almost half the assists, the Premier League assists of Lucas in 12 appearances. Lucas has played 132 times in the Premier League. I think Kulusevski's got 6. It's either 6 or 7. I can't remember what the number was now. But he is almost at the half of Lucas's assists in 12 matches. And that's where Lucas lets himself down, because he's got all the talent, I think. And he's got the pace allied to it. But just sometimes that head goes down and he does not look for other people. And that's why he's a player who doesn't have the assists. And the trouble is, he doesn't have the goals to back that up. I think his goals in the Premier League over 4 years are only like 18 or 19. He will come up trumps in European matches and cup matches, and he'll do, what you want him to do in those games. Maybe if you want to be harsh, maybe against lower opposition and things like that. And I just think if someone could take Lucas Moura and just kind of almost get him back to basics and explain to him, about creating chances. And this is why there's a little part of me that wonders, although obviously Bergwijn's future is related and linked into it, whether Lucas is part of Tottenham going in the long-term future, because I don't think he's going to be a regular starter unless there's an injury to Kulusevski. Because Kulusevski, as I said, offers more of a balance to that front three and opportunities for the others to score, and Lucas just doesn't do that. Look, I know he's a popular player and he's had some big moments for Tottenham. You know, Lucas gave us that night in Amsterdam, which was just one of the greatest Spurs nights of the modern era. And he scored some big goals against Barcelona, Manchester United, Man City. Don't get me wrong, he comes up in big moments. But as a regular, consistent contributor to the team, I just don't think he's there. And maybe that's what makes it more frustrating, because I know he can do it. I said about Winks coming on to bring some fresh impetus to midfield. Didn't do it. Didn't really offer anything more than Bentancur had with his own subpar performance. No, it still remains slow. The movement of the ball, Spurs still didn't have a shot on target, so they weren't pushing the ball through quickly. Even Steven Bergwijn, who was in such kind of high confidence and form, he almost reverted back to the pre-Steven Bergwijn when that ball comes through to him. Literally, less than a minute after Trossard had scored, and he just shanked the shot wide. It wasn't great at all. That was the kind of stuff that was maybe holding Bergwijn back, was getting in those big moments and then just messing up his chance. And unfortunately, he went back to one of those. But I suppose this is where maybe Conte comes into play as well, is that Steven Bergwijn's confidence. Yes, Conte says lots of nice things about him, but the proof is in the pudding, or more accurately, the proof is in the playing. Because if Steven Bergwijn is looking at it, and every week Lucas Moura is coming on and not really offering much more to the team, and he's getting on ahead of Steven Bergwijn, who's scoring goals, and scoring goals for his 3 goals in 2 games for his country as well, and he's still coming off the bench kind of late on, your confidence is naturally going to ebb away, and it's almost undoing the good stuff of the confidence he was building because of his goals. That was a poor slice wide. But as I said before, just too many players off the ball, not even using the ball well, and too many of them. And what was quite interesting, I felt afterwards, was Conte clearly, after the game, must have made it very clear in that dressing room, a phrase: if you can't win, then you don't lose. Because after the game, not only did he say that in his pretty much every interview he did, including his press conference, Hugo Lloris said it in his interview, and Eric Dyer said it in his interview as well. So that has been the phrase that's been used in that dressing room. And it's right, it's true. The best teams, even when they're struggling to get through at one end, they make sure they don't throw away the game at the other. And that's exactly what Spurs did. That was kind of classic Spurs, wasn't it? That's what you don't want to say it, but it was. It was classic Spurs. We've seen so many of those games when they've failed to do what they need to do at the other end, and then late on you're thinking, oh, they're going to nick this, and they did, the opposition. It was interesting. I'm going to use Lloris' comments, and I think there's more to come from Lloris as well tonight and tomorrow. But the comments that he said on Spurs' kind of post-match interview was quite interesting, and it was. I like Lloris's post-defeat comments. I feel like he's one of those, he will just come out and say it as it is, and I like that about him. He is a thoughtful guy. So what he said afterwards, he says, it was a very average performance, to be honest. The only regret is that in that type of game, if you can't win, you don't lose. That's the key. We're talking about consistency. It can happen to have a bad day, but to throw away all the effort that we made in the last few weeks by losing this game, it's a big disappointment. The other thing is to look forward now. We've got 1 week now to prepare for the next battle. It's important to analyse well the game and analyse well the performance and learn from this game, because I think it will happen again. This type of team, already safe in the Premier League, that play with freedom. They come here just to compete and enjoy the competition without the pressure of results. In our side, we play for big things, so we can only blame ourselves and continue to work. And then he was asked about, kind of how to process the game and then what you do next, to which he said, we're talking right now about the game, but we'll see tomorrow, and you need 24 hours to 48 hours to digest it mentally. It's a big disappointment, and then you get back on track by working hard, by preparing for the next game as best as we can and be ready for the battle. Today there is plenty of questions about the performance that we need to answer. Why we could not increase the intensity? Why could we not change the rhythm at some point in the game? And then today we were a bit too slow in transition by passing the ball, and we lost a lot of easy balls. This doesn't help the confidence individually and, of course, for the team. The atmosphere was so great. The warm-up before the game, we didn't use well this positive energy, and we can understand the frustration from the fans. We're so very disappointed, and we need another run of wins. If there are 6 games left, we need to continue to win. I thought that was a really good captain's message. It sounds like he's saying a lot of the stuff that Conte told them in the changing room. He's getting it out there. He's being very honest. Because that's the thing, Lloris didn't do too much wrong because he didn't have much to do wrong. He's barely had any shots put at the goal. The ice cream van's back. That is alongside. I don't know if you can hear that. As I said, always reminds me. He actually is driving really fast. Because it reminds me of the Eric Morecambe joke. When a police car goes by, never going to sell any ice creams going at that speed, is he? And that's what that ice cream van does. He flies down this road every time. You just imagine people throwing money and he's throwing like 99 flakes out of them and cornettos. But anyway, I massively digress. I like that from Lloris. I always think he's the man you want to hear from after defeat because he lays down exactly what they need to do. And Conte wasn't annoyed. He wasn't angry in the post-match press conference. He was very much of the opinion, look, these things happen, especially when you've been playing so well. And this is the thing. This video may come across as me having a big rant about certain things. That's not my intention. Spurs have been playing very well recently, and they've done brilliantly to get themselves into the position now to be still in charge of the top 4 race. But they have to learn the lessons of yesterday. That's key, and that's kind of what Conte kept saying. It's about the experience now. This is a man who's worked at clubs, Juventus, let's say, and Inter Milan last season, and Chelsea, where you have to be able to handle the pressure in the big moments, when you're going for a title. So to do this when you're just going to top 4, this is part of the building blocks of getting that mentality in there. So this is more storytelling with Alistair, right? So these are Conte quotes, some of them that he used. Certainly not a good result for us, and a lesson that we can learn today, that there are games that if you're not able to win, you're not to lose. See that statement, that phrase again. It was very clear that today wasn't our day, but I understand we wanted to try and get 3 points because it was very important for us to get 3 points, playing before our rivals do in the race for the Champions League. Sometimes we need to feel that today the game was very difficult because it was a tactical game for both sides. Brighton were very good to close every space, but we helped our opponent because we moved the ball slowly. We were able to do much better than we did today. So, talking about this pressure thing, you're going to refer to that next. He said Brighton were good to close the space, but if you move the ball in a slow way, you help the opponent to close the space. They would not be able to occupy it if you move the ball quickly. I think that you have to try to do much better than today. We have to know that we're in the race for the Champions League. I think not many people thought this, but we are in this race because we showed that we deserve to stay there. Now we have to continue. Once you're in a good position in the table, you have to keep this position. It's a good opportunity for us also to cope with the pressure because when you arrive and then you know that you stay in a fantastic target for you, let's say you're winning the league and you are first, and then you have to cope with the pressure with the other results. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to improve because I think this group of players need it. No, they needed this type of examination for improvement. And hopefully it does the trick. It was not what we wanted to see at all. I felt so sorry. I had to park up at Cheshunt Station because the train line I normally go on, they're doing loads of work and there's rail replacement buses. So I parked up at Cheshunt and went, and this chap came up to me after when we were heading back, and he was a very nice guy, British guy who had come over from Chicago from the game. He must work and live over there. And he was like, I've come over twice in the last couple of months. One was for the Wolves match and one was for this match. So I felt so sorry for him because, they were both games, both home games when Spurs just decided, nah, you're right. Nah, we've got no intention of really winning this game. And that's what I'll do. And it is very painful. But if it's a painful lesson that's learned, then maybe it'll have served its purpose. If it fires them up for the remaining 6 games and they realise, we can't take our foot off the pedal at any time against any team and think we've won that game or get carried away with the previous results. If it does that, then yes, we'll look back and say it was worth it. But, it's a big week ahead. After that match, after the final whistle, Arsenal had 3 games until Tottenham play again. Obviously, we know now that they've played one and lost it against Southampton. But you look at this week ahead. So you've got Man U travelling to Liverpool on Tuesday night, and Arsenal going to Chelsea on Wednesday night, which is their game in hand. I think all Spurs fans there are willing, obviously, Liverpool and Chelsea wins there, because they do that, then everything settles down a bit there for Spurs as well. And then, because of course, on Saturday lunchtime kickoff, it is Arsenal at home against Man United. So in the ideal world of scenarios, you probably want Liverpool and Chelsea to win in the week against them both, and then they, grind out a draw together at the Emirates when they meet each other. Because then, again, it's up to then Spurs will have to go to Brentford and do what they need to do. Because if they do, then suddenly it'll have been a week that's transformed again. And I know this is the way football works. One week it goes one way and one week it goes the other. But it is that this week ahead is so big, and Spurs, by messing up, they've left themselves in a situation where they are just watching on like, squeaky bum time, as it were, as Fergie used to call it. There are going to be some big games to watch. I mean, as well, Brentford, a certain Dane will be there as well in Christian Eriksen, who will want to show how good he is against Tottenham. Of course he will. Brentford are absolutely flying again with him. Picked out a late win, obviously, against Watford, and to add to the other wins they've had, obviously, most memorably, the Chelsea one. So here are the final fixtures for the four teams, we'll say, that are in the top four race, if we're going to maybe say Wolves aren't now. So Tottenham, obviously, Brentford away, Leicester at home. Also be aware that Leicester game is in between sandwiched by Leicester's Europa Conference League semi-final legs of their games. So whether that plays a part or not, you never know. Sometimes it does, sometimes it goes the other way. So you've got Leicester at home, then you've got Liverpool away, which obviously we know how difficult match that's going to be. Then you've got the North London derby at home just 4 days later, Thursday night. 4 days, Saturday to Thursday. Then you've got Burnley at home and Norwich away. So you could be in a scenario where maybe Burnley, but probably Norwich are going to maybe have been relegated by then, which means that they're playing with, as Lloris was saying, the freedom, without the pressure that comes with what they've been fighting for. So, yes, I'd say if you look at the probably four sides, Spurs probably have, on paper, as Guesty and I like to say, the less complicated run-in, but as they proved yesterday, it means absolutely nothing if you're not going to play to your full potential. So that's Spurs running. Arsenal's Chelsea away, Man United at home, West Ham away, Leeds at home, Tottenham away, Newcastle away, and Everton at home on the last day of the season. So, that next three, of course, Chelsea, Man U, and West Ham. Obviously, it should be pointed out that West Ham have got their Europa League semi-finals either side of their Arsenal game. So you've got that to take into account as well. So you've got Man United, Liverpool away, Arsenal away, Brentford at home, Brighton away, Chelsea at home, Crystal Palace away on the last day of the season. That's not an easy run of fixtures. West Ham, Burnley at home today, which obviously is taking place just after. I think they're about to kick off, so you know exactly roughly when I'm filming this. Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Norwich away, Man City at home, Brighton away, and of course they've got their Europa League fixtures, like I said, and how much that stretches them. So there are so many twists and turns for this to take now. There's so many big matches, and it would be just like, let's say Arsenal have lost these 3 games against teams you would have thought they would have beaten. You wouldn't be able to put it past them to go against some of these bigger teams and pull off results. That's just the way football works. So this is why it was so crucial that Tottenham win their home matches against a team they should beat, and what makes it all the more annoying. Like I say, it's all about them learning from this now. In terms of loan roundup, again, because I'm doing this early on Sunday, there's not too many I can do. Troy Parrott scored a lovely goal against Sheffield Wednesday. I was watching that while I was working last night after the game. Ran onto the ball, nice touch, dinked it over the keeper. Defender could only kind of take it over the line with him. he was good. He really grew into that game. They lost to Sheffield Wednesday. It was a big game, but Parrott, I felt, stood up. It was a lovely goal. He played some nice passes, constantly showing for the ball. He's coming on leaps and bounds, which is terrific. He's 20 years old. I think if you include his goal for Ireland, I think it's 6 goals in his last 8 games, something like that. Really coming on strong. Kian Atete had a man of the match performance for Cheltenham. They drew 2-2 with Gillingham, scored a goal as well, and he was heavily involved in Cheltenham's first goal as well. Some really good work, so that's great to see him. 2 strikers. I think they're both 20. Yeah, both 20, doing big things in League One, and hopefully that will see them start to push on. Elsewhere, I think Tongi was playing till today with Lyon. Lo Celso, again, I think only played 29 minutes. Seems to be the theme at the moment. Unai Emery's starting him, and obviously he's playing very well in the Champions League. Obviously they beat Bayern Munich to go through to the semis. And then when it comes to La Liga games, he's coming off the bench for the last half hour. So maybe just keeping him ticking over rather than wearing him out. That's kind of it, really. Loan-wise, I'll do a proper loan roundup probably on the website either tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. So there we go. Tottenham Hotspur, what a roller coaster, as always. Like I say, this isn't a ranty video. It's just kind of hopefully pointing out where it went wrong. And that's exactly what Conte would have done. Again, I'm not comparing myself to him in any way, but that's what he will have done. He would have pointed out where they can fix things and analyse that. They'll have a proper full week on the training ground now with no... they're not going to get any days off, those players, and he's obviously now over his COVID, hopefully, and he will be back on those training pitches, and they will be better for it with a full week between the games as well. Technically just over a week because it's a later game rather than lunchtime kickoff, and I'd hope that Spurs will go into it in a better place, but it's going to be a tough one because Brentford are in high spirits. So yeah, as I said at the start as well, you will get a notification at some point this week when I can actually do it of my time in Sorrento. Please don't feel you have to watch it because you watch my Spurs stuff. It's going to be very different. It's one of those videos I just thought to myself, it might be quite nice for people. When I went, I did a holiday, was it last year or the year before? I did actually have a little look on YouTube and I saw some quite helpful videos of people telling you what places to go to, what not to do, little tips and things. And I just thought, you know what? As I've kind of got used to this platform now, maybe it might be a nice little thing. And it may be some people will think, maybe I will go to Sorrento because it was beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But I don't need to make this a video about that. So yeah, feel free to just go, now you're right, I'm not watching that. And like I say, I'll get some people who will leave comments going, what? This has nothing to do with Tottenham Hotspur. And I will get new people maybe watching that who have searched for videos about Sorrento and Capri and Pompeii or whatever, who will go like, what are these people talking about Tottenham underneath it? But yeah, I'm going to try and put it, I think within this channel, I can put it into different sections of videos. So we will go into a travel video next to whenever I next go on my holiday, which I do actually know is in the summer. It's during the transfer window. So yes, and it's actually quite a key time of the transfer window. But that's all to come later. We can't even start thinking of the summer and the transfer window yet. So yeah. So on that note, I'm going to head off, try and enjoy a bit of the sunshine before I get back to work tomorrow. And hopefully that's exactly the frame of mind the Tottenham players will be in, getting back to work, getting on that pitch, fixing this. Hopefully results go Tottenham's way this week, and then they go into the weekend and take this top 4 race by the scruff of the neck and make it their own, because the goal difference is terrific and it's all there for them to do. They've just got to seize the opportunity. Carpe diem, as Robin Williams famously said in Dead Poets Society. They've got to seize the day. So on that note, look after yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Of course, I'm saying I'm working tomorrow. I should point out that, we don't really kind of do bank holidays in journalism world and sports journalism. So, of course, everyone else will still be off tomorrow, hopefully, or many of you will. But I got to go back to work. So, boo for me. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.